Good morning. It's Friday. Welcome to Pressbox Plus, a video supplement to the Pressbox radio show, which is again on hiatus until November 1st on WRJB radio. We're doing the United Way charity auction. So if you'd like, go to WRJBradio.com, click on that link, listen live to the auction, bid on the items. You might be helping a friend or neighbor. You just never know. United Way does some tremendous things, and that's what they're doing over there in Benton County the last 2 weeks. Got one more week, and then I'll be back in the studio. Hopefully, we'll be on video. That's our plan. We'll be on video when we return. If we're not immediately, it's very shortly after. I've got a plan. So anyway, we're glad you're with us. The response to the videos that we've been doing have been very good, and I think I'm going to keep this up. I've been talking to a few people. My sister, in fact, she's into this kind of thing, and she said, Jim, she goes, you need to brand this. You need to do some things. She goes, the lighting sucks, whatever. And I agree, it does, but I told her, I said, Sue, I'm just doing this one cell phone. It's baby steps. We'll get to it. And she said, okay, well, I just want to make sure. So there is an idea that I'm floating, and if you recall, some of you may not, but I did this in addition to my radio show stuff. When I was in the hospital, my then significant other was telling me about this radio show called Kentucky Sports Radio, and it was done by a guy named Matt Jones, still is, in fact, and I'm not a Kentucky fan. Haven't been for a long, long time. And but she was telling me about it and how all they do is talk about Kentucky sports, Kentucky basketball, Kentucky football, Kentucky baseball. And she said, you ought to do something like that. And I said, okay, well, I said, let me take a listen to it. And if you can blot out all the stuff about Kentucky, it's really a good show. It's well done. And they've built it up to where it's the biggest sports talk show, or it was once upon a time the biggest sports talk radio show in the nation. And it's just in Kentucky, believe it or not. It's in I think in 39 cities, 39 radio stations, and they're to that point where they're turning away sponsorship. They don't have sponsors, room for sponsors. They don't. They said, we can't put you on. We don't have any room for you. Good problem to have. So anyway, I'm thinking about resurrecting volunteer sports radio, which I ran a few years ago. But this is, again, in anticipation that Butch Jones would get this thing turned around. He did not. And I think a lot of the Tennessee fans were pretty much kind of done with the Vols. I mean, and you could say fair weather fans or whatever. Look, I'm a fan. I hung with them. I watched and listened, but I was equally frustrated, and my enthusiasm wasn't what it should have been, what it could have been had they been winning. And that's just part of it. I remember one time a coach told me, well, people should show up to the gym regardless if you win or lose. I said, yeah, they should, but they don't. That's the reality. And so now that the iron is hot, I'm thinking about striking it again. So let me know in the comments below or on on my various social media links, if this is something that you'd like to see, we'll do it. I plan on continuing this Pressbox Plus thing indefinitely, just as a supplement to the radio show, because there are a lot of times when I'm on the show and I'll come home and something happens and it require comment, or maybe, I'm off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from the show because I cover games on Friday night. So I thought, well, something happens on those days. It's usually 2 or 3 days before I can remark on what happened. And so this will be an opportunity to sort of fill those gaps and to keep this thing going a little bit. I'm really pleased with the response, and who knows what this may turn into. This may turn into something bigger and better. But we're going to try to get something going, try to make it better, try to make it, more palatable, better lighting, better backdrop than these old ratty drapes that I have behind me, in the whole thing. This is just something that I'm doing right now just to keep it going while I'm off the air for about 3 weeks. But bigger and better things are going to happen with this. So I hope you stay tuned. Anyway, again, people are still buzzing about the Tennessee victory over Alabama, 52-49. Alabama fans are belly aching, saying, well, Tennessee didn't beat us, we beat ourselves. Okay, maybe there's some grains of truth, and that's to be argued perhaps later. But Tennessee did win the game. 100 years from now, people aren't going to wonder, well, how did that happen? They're just going to see Tennessee 52, Alabama 49, and people will probably say, wow, what a ball game. Great win for the program. Where it's having a big effect is, one, donors, and two, it is having an effect on recruiting. A lot of recruits are going, wow. And you're seeing guys in high school signing off their interviews with Go Vols. The people are really turned on to this team right now, and it's exciting to watch. The offense, I sit there and I watched a replay of that game, and it was just magical watching how wide open those receivers were, particularly Jalen Hyatt with his 5 touchdown catches and 6 receptions. And what do you have? 200 yards and 177 yards, something like that. It was unbelievable. And say what you will about Bryce Young, he was remarkable that day. He was really, really good for Alabama. He's the Heisman Trophy winner. He should have been good. But Alabama got exposed. Alabama demonstrated that its running game isn't real sharp. Keep in mind, Tennessee, the offensive front really held out that defensive line for Alabama. Thought they did a nice job on that as I go back and look at it. Then you look at the secondary. Alabama's secondary is suspect. And a lot of different things Alabama's going to have to work on. And we're going to get to them in a moment. But Tennessee, this is a big win for the program. Big win for Tennessee football program. They needed this win in the worst way. 15 years. If they hadn't won this year, with the build up to the ball game, I'm not sure they would have recovered from it this year. I don't know. I may have been wrong about that. But what a ball game that was. What a victory it was for Tennessee football. Now, as for Alabama, their destiny is Alabama's destiny is in its own, let's get it right, in its own hands. It's got Ole Miss coming up, and there's going to be some potholes here and there. Alabama is not guaranteed to run the table, but it can, and it should. Ole Miss, though, is quietly undefeated, quietly in the top 10, and they're doing it quietly because they're not throwing it all over the place. Ole Miss is running the football and winning pretty convincingly. So we'll see how that plays out. Ole Miss could wind up in Atlanta. Could. We'll see what happens. But they've got a decent team this year, and Tennessee they're sucking all the oxygen out of the media air. Everybody's paying attention to Tennessee, and that's the fireworks in the sky. But on the ground, Ole Miss is stealing your hubcaps. So get ready, folks. I think it's going to be an interesting last 6 weeks. Here's what you have to consider. This is one of the complaints I hear about from Tennessee fans. Well, they're going to have to work on the defense. The defense sucks. It's not very good. It hasn't been very good. It's been good enough. Tennessee is 6-0, beaten 4 ranked teams. Who cares about the defense? They're winning. Now, it may come back and bite them at some point in time. But right now, they're 6-0. So they can afford to be a little shoddy on defense. All they have to do is make the big play. And they made enough of them against Alabama to win. They made enough of them against LSU and Florida and Pittsburgh to win. And say what you will, there's arguments to be made on both sides. Tennessee beat 4 ranked teams. Well, did they okay, you can say they did. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to question the legitimacy of those rankings, me among them. But that's what they were. They were ranked when Tennessee played them. And nobody in the history of college football has beaten 4 ranked teams, gone 6-0, and scored 30 points or more per game through 6 games in the season. Tennessee is the only team in history to do that. And oh, by the way, the last time Alabama had this many points put on them was back in 1907 when Swanee beat them. I think it was 57-4. So this is the worst beatdown Alabama had since 1907, 115 years. Fancy that. So, big win for Tennessee. Now, Alabama, again, though, Alabama fans are saying, oh, well, they suck, we're done. And a lot of people are saying, oh, there's no way. Hey, listen, Alabama has only won the national championship twice while being undefeated. The rest of the time, all those other championships, they've had at least one loss. They haven't had more than that, but they've had one loss. So Alabama can win it all still. I mean, they've got a lot of football left to play in that Western Division. But Ole Miss is going to play king in the mountain with Alabama to see if they can knock them off the hill. And if they can, Ole Miss is very likely to go to Atlanta. How crazy would that be? Ole Miss, since the 92 merger, is the only team not to go to Atlanta. Now, if you include Missouri and A&M, then A&M hasn't gone either. But they're the only one of the 92 teams after the South Carolina and Arkansas merger that brought the league to 12 teams that hasn't been to Atlanta. So anyway, Tennessee now has University of Tennessee at Martin coming to Knoxville. Kickoff is 11 a.m. Central Time, Saturday morning at Neyland Stadium. The Skyhawks are ranked 14th right now in FCS. And I jokingly posited on Facebook the other day, I said, if Tennessee wins the game, can they add that to their collection of teams that have been ranked? And a lot of people were like, yeah, go ahead, why not? And some people say it doesn't work that way. And I don't think you really can, but I'm just pointing out, UT Martin is probably a better UT Martin team than the last one that came up there in 2010 when Tennessee beat UTM 50-0. And I talked to a lot of the players. I went to the UT Martin press conference after the game and heard from Jason Simpson and the players, and a lot of the players were saying, look, I couldn't help it. Those guys were stronger than me. And Derek Carr, bless his heart, he's the quarterback. He's from right here in my hometown in McKenzie. Quarterback that day. Just had a tough time. UT Martin had athletes. UT Martin had playmakers, but not enough to counteract what Tennessee had, even with Derek Dooley. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Derek Dooley's debut. Anyway, 50-0 the last time the two teams played. I don't expect Tennessee Martin to win. I don't think they have the stamina or the depth or the talent to play with Tennessee, but it's 2022. Tennessee is going to have to take this seriously. Otherwise, boy, UT Martin could shock the world. Wouldn't that be crazy? And UT Martin, they played well for 3 quarters at Auburn. I think they were leading going into the 4th quarter against Auburn several years ago, about 12 years ago maybe. And Auburn finally broke away, but you just never know. Jacksonville State of the OVC beat Ole Miss a couple of years ago, on that same day, actually, in 2010. And I think they've beaten them another time. Who was it? Richmond has beaten Duke. An FCS beating a Division I team. James Madison, when it was FCS, beat Virginia Tech twice. And then, of course, don't forget Appalachian State, when it was FCS, beating number 5 Michigan at the Big House. So it can happen. There is precedent for it. And in 2022, which is a crazy year so far, anything is possible. Anything is possible. I think Tennessee wins the game, but they're going to have to play really well. Dresser Wynn and the Skyhawks have a really good team. And Dresser Wynn is Walter Payton finalist for Offensive Player in FCS in the FCS this year for the whole year. And he's throwing a ball about 300 yards per game. His dad, Peanut Wynn, was part of that crew with Popeye Jones and all that bunch back in the mid to late 80s that did so well. Went to the quarterfinals in football, the semifinals in basketball, and won a state baseball championship. Dresser's a good kid. And UT Martin, Jason Simpson has a good team leading the OVC right now. So we'll see how this plays. I think Tennessee wins this game pretty handily, should win it. And I think that's just the smart thing. I don't even know if there's a line on this game. I haven't found one yet. But I would say Tennessee by 30, easy, and maybe more than that. I have a feeling Tennessee will play a lot of players on Saturday, if it can. So anyway, but there's 6 games left, folks, starting with Tennessee, Martin. Then you've got Kentucky and Georgia and Missouri and Vanderbilt and South Carolina coming up. Now, I'm not sure that was in the order, but there's a lot of teams left. And, boy, there's some teams that could blow this thing up. South Carolina does but doesn't concern. They all concern me. If you're a Tennessee fan, they should concern you. But this has been a great run for Tennessee, ranked number 3 in the country right now. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected them to rise from the ashes, from the scandal, from the coaching departures, the firings, and from the player exodus in the transfer portal. Nobody expected this. You figure probably 5 years from now, you might see them knocking at this door, being ranked like 18th or something. But here we are. This is 2 years into the Josh Heupel era, and they're number 3 in the country and 6-0. We've seen this before. We saw it with Butch Jones, where they go 6-0 and all of a sudden things would fall apart. But this is a healthier team now. This team is healthy. And keep in mind, last week against Alabama, Cedric Tillman still didn't play. You were missing Jalen McCullough because of the situation, but they expect to have him back. That's the word I'm hearing. This secondary guy, the senior safety captain, Jalen McCullough, he was out because of the incident, the felony assault incident, and you had a couple other guys out. So, and Tennessee still beat Alabama. Say what you will about that. So this is where we are right now. Week 6 of the college football season, or game 6 of the college football season, is in the rearview mirror. Tennessee 6-0, number 3 in the country. A lot of people think they should be number 1. I knew that wasn't going to happen. You can have that opinion, and it makes sense. A lot of people do have them number 1 in their own personal polling. I've seen a lot of pundits talk about that. But I think Tennessee is probably right where it needs to be right now. Make them a little bit hungry to get higher. Which reminds me, Alabama losing sort of reminded me way back in the day, if you remember 1980, when the American hockey team beat the Soviets in the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics. And that's where we got the chant, USA, USA. That's the genesis of all that. And the Americans won, I think it was 4-3, and Al Michaels was giving the call. He says, "Do you believe in miracles?" "Yes." And when the game was over, you saw the Russian side over there in front of their bench just miserably leaning on their hockey sticks. And one of the captains said, "See, they were hungry. We aren't. We were so used to winning, and they weren't. And this is how they react. We've got to get back to that point where we don't take winning for granted." And sometimes I think that was the case with Alabama Saturday. I think Alabama was so used to winning, and now Tennessee wins, and everybody celebrates. Because Alabama is the litmus test. And I thought what Paul Feinbaum said, a lot of people disagreed with it. A lot of Tennessee fans didn't like what he said, but he was exactly right when he said that Alabama is compared to perfection and everybody else in college football is compared to Alabama. I don't know why you'd have a problem with that. Alabama is the litmus test. It's the standard bearer for college football. Everybody, I don't care if Georgia is the reigning national champion. I don't care if Clemson or whoever else has been in the mix, LSU. Alabama is the team right now that everybody chases. And so that being said, what Paul Feinbaum said was exactly right. He was spot on when he said Alabama is compared to perfection. everybody else is compared to Alabama. He was exactly right. And so when Alabama loses, it's a big deal. I don't care if it's Tennessee or if it's A&M or if it's LSU or whomever, Ole Miss, add anyone to that mix. It's a big deal when Alabama loses for that very reason. And Tennessee did it in a colorful and exciting way. And it may wind up getting Hendon Hooker the Heisman Trophy. Depends upon what C.J. Stroud does moving on. I think Stroud is the guy. He's the front runner. That's the reason I think that is because I know how the process works. So, and if they can, we saw what happened with Peyton Manning in '97. They gave it to Charles Woodson, and it shouldn't have happened. But they did because the voters got tired of the process. They wanted something new, and ESPN, some of those guys were kind of driving it, and that's why I don't follow the Heisman Trophy. To me, it's a second-rate award anymore. And keep in mind, I grew up with a Heisman Trophy winner, and I've interviewed several of them. And to me, it's just not an award anymore that's worth all the hype. It's a second-rate award. So anyway, we'll talk more about this game with Tennessee Martin over the weekend. We'll give you an update probably Saturday after the game, and to let you know what I think about that if you're interested. Also, if you'd like, this is week 10 of the high school football season. It's hard to believe we're already here. It's next week, and then it's the playoffs, folks. My McKenzie Rebels are going to be at home tonight against Hollow Rock Brewston Central, celebrating senior night. Hollow Rock Brewston Central, nice win at Perry County last week. Gave them a jolt of confidence. 56-36, I think, was the score. Central's going to be a pretty good football team, folks. Hang with them. And you kids at Central, if you're watching this, hang with them, because this is your team is coming. It's an up-and-coming team. Stay with them and stay hard at it and focus and concentrate and work hard in the off season. This team is going to be an up-and-coming team. But Hollow Rock Brewston Central tonight at McKenzie at senior night. McKenzie 8-0, number one in the state still, had week 9 off last week. And so McKenzie wins. McKenzie wins the region. So this is going to be a big game for McKenzie, even if it is against the Central team that struggled. McKenzie needs it to win the region. So anyway, high school football all over the state tonight, and there was last night as well. Go out and support your teams, folks, and just go out and support your teams. I guess nothing left to say about that. Anyway, folks, we appreciate you joining us. Don't forget, we'll return to the Press Box on WRJB November 1st from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time on 95.9 FM. You can listen to us on WRJBradio.com. Follow me on Twitter. My handle is Steele Sports, Steele Sports. Follow me and I will follow you on Facebook. I'm Jim Steele, Steele with an E on the end of it. Send me a friend request. I'm getting close to that point. I've got over 4,000 on my page, so I think you get to 5,000, they shut you down. So I may have to start another page. We'll see how that plays out. Now, if you want to follow the McKenzie Rebels tonight, go to McKenzieRebels.com fan page on Facebook, and I'll do scoreline updates, line-by-line updates when they score. And so I'll let you know what's happening with that if you want to check that out. You can go to the Pressbox page for the Facebook. Type in your Facebook search bar, West Tennessee Pressbox. Should pop right up like the page. Tell your friends. You can find out all you want to know about the show there. And you can read my column in the Carroll County News Leader, the Camden Chronicle, and the Dresden Enterprise each week. And I appreciate you doing that as well. Hey, like and subscribe. Tell me what you thought about the video. If you got any ideas, if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Want to hear what you have to say. And we appreciate you joining us. And we'll be back on after the Tennessee Martin game, UT Martin game, sometime Saturday. So have a great weekend, everyone, and enjoy it. And we will see you soon. So long, everyone. I'm Jim Steele.